Hello and welcome everyone to a Division 1 matchup in round 4 here between University of Warsaw and University of Michigan's A team. This is going to be a pretty exciting match. These are two very strong teams. And we're underway here with Dasani Bottle Cap, who I believe is Kevin Haas. This is actually Michigan's leader, their president. Board 3 here. Up against, I don't know how to pronounce that. It looks like scissor to me, but I can only assume that's not how you pronounce it. That is Rizard, I guess, from Poland. So yeah, we have this team from Warsaw. They actually registered pretty close to the deadline, but they snuck in there with the team, and a very strong team at that, making Division 1. And it's largely in part thanks to Bartek, GM Bartek, actually. This is their board 1 here from Warsaw, 2500 Grandmaster, up against a National Master right now. So I actually reached out to Bartek because I knew him to be the coach, I believe, from UTRGV, who also has a team registered here with us in the Collegiate Chess League. But he actually didn't register the UTRGV team. He registered the Warsaw team because he's no longer at UTRGV. I mean, he might be a coach at some capacity, but he's not like physically there. Well, not that I know of. He's actually at Warsaw as a graduate student. So in seasons past, he's been a coach, and now he's a player, which is really exciting to see. Sometimes the coach wants to play too, and going back to grad school now gives Bartek that opportunity. So this is going to be a tough match for Warsaw. As you can see, this is Michigan's bottom board, the 4th board at 2367 National Master. So we'll see how Bartek does here up against the 4th board, and every round will get harder and harder for Bartek. Michigan's top board is not titled on chess.com, but they're definitely stronger than titled in terms of their rating. They're at 2748 here, up against a woman grandmaster on board 4 for Warsaw, Joanna. I don't know how to pronounce that. Dworakowska. That's my attempt. I apologize to any of the players that I butcher their names. But yes, she is a woman grandmaster on board 4. So Black hasn't castled yet. They have this really annoying pawn on h3. The queen is tied to the defense of this. Here we have bishop takes, now pawn takes. Ooh, knight takes here first with the fork. Well, the king's going to go attack the knight, I suppose. You want to control c7 so that when the knight does take the rook, the knight can't retreat. I think that once the king moves, and the knight takes, we bring the bishop back, and this knight's going to be trapped, and we'll get 2 pieces for the rook, which should be good for black. So it all just depends on how you go about it here. So white decides to take here on d5 first, not taking the rook. Knight comes with tempo on the queen. And so black takes, white takes back with the queen, and now this bishop is hanging actually. So you can't quite just take this, because then you take here, the rook's hit. So I believe white has misplayed this, and they're probably realizing that now. How do you save this bishop? If you move the bishop, queen takes is really annoying. You actually would lose the queen. Unless... No. So you have to defend this. You may have to go back. Maybe e5 is a move here. Knight here you take with check, and then you remove the defender. So Yeah, probably one of these two moves white has to play. And okay, e5 is on the board. Maybe knight takes now. So the queen's hit. We can take on e5. And we do. So now the bishop's hit again. There goes this. But now knight takes is going to be pretty annoying. The king's probably going to have to come up. So you don't want to go to the F file where you have discoveries. You don't want to go to the D file where you get pinned. So you have to go to E2, attacking the knight, but now bishop develops, taking the pawn opposite the king. This is looking like it's game over. There's a check. Queen blocks, saying let's get the queens off. If you take here, we have knight check. That picks up the rook. But that is two pieces. That is two pieces. So it's not over just yet. Black is up in exchange. This knight will be pinned to the rook. So take here. Are there any checks that we got to watch out for? The kings are both very exposed. Queen check is a threat for black, but I suspect white will start checking things, trying to grab some pawns here. Let's check back over with Bartek's game. Let's see how he's doing. So this position looks pretty solid for both sides. No glaring weaknesses or anything. Both players with the fianchetto bishops on the long diagonal. Some pressure was on d4, so the knight comes here to defend and support the other knight. Bartek going with this bishop attack on the rook on c1, weakening the defense of the c-pawn, making it a little bit harder to push the c-pawn if white wanted to expand here in the center. Although, for the time being, there's pressure on b3, so you couldn't move the c-pawn anyways. I'm expecting a rook move. Don't see anything else. Let's check back in with Kevin's game. Kevin's under, well, he's not under a minute. He's a minute below his opponent. He's just played knight to c or d2, trying to get rid of this knight. This is a beautifully placed knight here in the center from black, supported by both pawns. Really nice piece there. So Kevin's trying to potentially trade it. Kevin would be very happy to see this capture. But black will maintain the knight here and wait for white to take, such that black takes back either which way, creating a connected passed pawn, which will be a long-term end-game strength for black and a weakness for white. So you're in a tough position. Do you take, allow them to take back, or do you just leave this tension here? Now Kevin's under a minute, so yeah, just a simple waiting move here from black, just saying, your turn. What do you want to do? I've created a flight square for myself now. I'm taking away this square from you. Maybe I'll even go here with the knight if I don't want to trade. This queen's applying pressure on b2. This rook is just babysitting a pawn right now. This rook isn't doing anything though, truly. And if white does decide to take the knight, how does black take back? Do you take up with the F file, opening this up, or do you take with the D pawn? I think you take with the F pawn. You want to open and activate your rook, but also you don't want to allow whites to have this 2-on-1 majority in the center, where it's possible white starts advancing these pawns. So Kevin down to 20 seconds. We have a trade here. Queen takes, and now the rook can come with tempo. Probably queen here. 18 seconds. Decides to go to d2. Ooh. Can't even play rook to f1. Okay, Ben Lee, top board from Michigan, just won with checkmate. Yeah, this was not ending well for white. So well done by Ben. We're going to keep an eye on this game here with Kevin versus Rizard, as it's very close on the clock here for Kevin. It's going to have to speed up. So The queen has rerouted to the king side. We have a rook lift saying if you take, I'm going to take with a pawn, undoubling. Kevin's just trying to be speedy. Black's matching the speed, trying to keep Kevin low, which is a bold strategy because if you match that speed, you might make a mistake. We also have another board here, Horizon Event. We got the name wrong on this board. Okay, so this is the second board, Justin Paul from Michigan, up against Arcadius Lignart from Warsaw, another grandmaster on the team. And this is one of their club leaders. Both players under a minute on the clock. So there goes this pawn. White's got these active rooks. Black has a passed pawn. So overall, I think the position's fairly even. This queen's tied down. Queen would love to come and join the party, but gotta watch out for checks and pawn pushes and all that. Just check, check. Somewhat annoying. So 2 pawns right in the king's face. We do see this check. The king is gonna be forced out, or you have to block with the queen. They decide to block with the queen. You don't want the king to be too exposed. The rook covers this check. Let's check in Bartek's game. Bartek's opponent is down to their last 5 seconds. So Bartek's looking pretty good here. White's very defensive here. This knight and queen defending this rook. Gotta watch out for that. This knight's very well placed. Yeah, these Warsaw players getting really nice outposts. Yeah, here Kevin's just lost. Kevin maybe trying to promote this, but that's gonna be a goner. Let's see. Yeah, the rooks were traded off, and these pawns were just too weak. So, with this passed pawn made from that beautiful knight outpost, this queen can't stop all of them. So, yeah, that's a point there for Rizard, tying things up at 1 apiece. Back to Bartek, both players under 10 seconds. Ooh, there's a check. That's going to force some trades. Now what are we left with? This pawn is hanging. The pawn's being chased. 3 seconds. Again, pawn's going to get chased. You're going to have to sacrifice this guy. Now, do you push? No, it takes. Okay, you want to continue. Ooh, I don't know. Okay, taking here, giving up the B pawn. So that's actually a really good trade for Black. Black is up 3 whole pawns. They should be able to win this pretty convincingly. Ooh, and we just missed the results of this one. Justin Paul won here in this end game. So let's see. FIDE Master takes down the Grandmaster with the passed A pawn. All right, let's check in on this one. Let's see Bartek's technique. So let's go band with the point. Regaining the lead for Michigan, but looks like Bartek should be able to even the score here. Just gobbling up these pawns. Look at this beautiful pawn chain that Bartek has, and Bartek's also slightly up on the clock. Here, no, just attacking the knight first. Knight check. Here, that's a trapped knight a little bit, no? So the knight retreat. You definitely don't go here where it is trapped. You go back. So this king just nicely got to e5, 2 moves with this knight without making ooh, and that's going to be the final straw there. Getting that fork in, and now you have 3-0. So there's resignation. Well done to Bartek, the leader. Well, the board leader for Warsaw, I should say. Arcadius has been in charge of organizing the club, but Bartek and Arcadius, I've been talking to both of them, so they've both helped out in terms of all the organization and leadership, registering the teams and all that. So 2-2 after round 1. Here we are in round 2. We got two national masters going at it here. This is Rizard versus Alex Gian. So this should be a close match. We also have Bartek versus Kevin. The leader, one of the leaders from both teams. Alright, so castle's kingside here for black. Is white gonna follow suit? They developed the queen first. Protection over the c pawn. A little bit, eyeing up this diagonal. Black puts the knight in the center. This offsets white's knight. Let's go back to the National Master game. We've got a trade here on f6. So it looks like white takes the knight immediately. So should be interesting to see how black decides to play in this structure. Sometimes you take with the e pawn, get the bishop out in castle. Other times you take towards the center to help support an e5 push. Put the bishop on the long diagonal, or you put the rook on the open g file. So yeah, here white just goes with c4, and it seems that they're going to be castling kingside. We have a capture on d4 first. So this king, I don't know where it's going to reside in the long run. I don't know if we castle kingside, tuck the king on the corner, or if we castle queenside, play king b8, even king e8 to get off this diagonal. So we have capture back here. I have a feeling this is a good move. Yep, and black plays it. So essentially what you're doing is you're putting pressure on the knight, you're pinning it, and the knight is a key defender of d4. So at any moment, black can trade here on c4, opening up the queen. After bishop takes, if you want to preserve this pawn structure, queen takes, and now d4 is going to fall. So white at this point has to do something about the knight pin. You could develop this way. That drops the pawn as well, as the knight's still pinned, and now the queen's blocked. So the knight comes out to c3. So does black go for this and taking here? Now, importantly, after taking on c4, white doesn't have to take back right away. They could push the pawn. Okay, so black goes for this. Does white push? Because that allows for knight to e5, ganging up on the pin piece, as well as defending this pawn here, as well as looking at checks perhaps. So I don't know. I think that black will be up this pawn momentarily. I don't know if white can take back. White takes, but then you straight up lose the d5 pawn or d4 pawn. So they are going for d5, and we do see knight e5, and now bishop to e2. Getting ready to castle, perhaps, but we can trade off here. What else is there? I guess. Okay, so takes with bishop. Now probably you want to do bishop takes. Let's check in with Bartek's game. Bartek versus Kevin. Okay, so Bartek releases the tension, clamping down in the center. This just hits the queen, boxes out the bishop. Kevin's got these nice knights connected here. Well placed. All right, so Kevin trades queens, taking on b3 first, doubling the pawns, now bringing the bishop out. So white does get this open rook. Open file for the rook. So rook a4 is played. Very interesting. Okay, a6. This black rook wants to develop, doesn't want to babysit a pawn. This pawn now is the base point, and it's very hard to push as this pawn kind of clamps down. So the rook already immediately targets this b7 pawn, saying if your rook's not going to babysit on a7, you're going to have to babysit on b7. You don't want to drop this pawn. So this knight's really well placed for white as well. Ooh, rook a7 is just an ugly move. You really don't want to play like that. Yeah, I don't know. If you go to rook b8 though, this bishop is eyeing it, so it's just not a good situation. So I would say that white's pretty solid here, like despite the doubled pawns. I think white has better activity of the pieces, but that being said, it's a very close position. It's pretty static for the time being. Both sides are going to have to figure out how to navigate with this cramped position. Let's go back to the National Masters here. We have, what is this? Queen check, king over, and now rook to c8. Just defending this pawn. So why did the knight go back? Perhaps afraid of this pawn falling. So this is a defensive move. Neither side is castled, interestingly. So we did get this knight check. Yeah, after bishop takes, there's knight check. Pretty nicely placed knight. So now the bishop is trying to put the knight into question. But this will allow black to have a passed pawn. How far it goes, I'm not sure. Knight here also defends mate, actually. I'm just now realizing. The things you'll miss when you look away for a second. Yeah, house party sees it. So now the queen centralizes here. d4. Now if bishop takes, you don't take with the pawn because you hang your queen. You take with the queen with check. So now probably king here. This rook is trapped. Less than ideal. White's going to have to make space for the king to get the rook out. That or something crazy like that, which isn't that crazy. So now, what's the question? What do? We can take here. A knight move, though, like this, I'd be slightly worried about. There's also this pawn that's hanging. So right now, without grabbing any pawns or anything, black is up a pawn. So that's pretty solid. Let's check in on Bartek's game again. We got the doubled rooks. This pawn is pushing. So I don't know if you can ever get b5 in. If the bishop were to open up, you could, because this pawn is pinned to the rook, because white has doubled on the a file. So the question is, how do you get to play b5? The knight coming back, opening up the bishop. Perhaps looking at this, but I don't think so. Do you drop the a pawn? So I don't know. This is one of those positions that Bartek's just going to try to squeeze the opponent. Kevin was in time pressure in the last game, I think. But all in all, position's still completely solid for both sides. White is slightly favored because white's the one that has the control of the position. Okay, we have a trade here. How does white take back? They take with the bishop. Okay. Now, is white going to go for the... Okay, attacking the bishop. Looking at some of these squares, perhaps. This is a nice outpost square. This attacks the bishop. So now both players under a minute. Same on this board as well. Ooh, let's check out Joanna. Joanna's got her opponent in some major time pressure. So let's go Band took out Arcadius. Okay, in the last round. So it's a strong FIDE master, but Joanna's bouncing back after her first round defeat. Looks like this pawn's promoting. Black is... Wait a second here. Knight takes G2. What's happening? 10 seconds for Justin. 4, 3, no, 6. Okay, so the queen's hit. Queen G. Yeah, I at first glance it looks like white's really good. But on second thought, so there goes this. Knight f4 is looking juicy. Knight f4, yeah, that's mate. Wow. Wait, is it mate? Oh, take the rook with... Oh, now it's mate. Beautiful, beautiful. Nice shot here from Joanna taking on G2. Yeah. Look at these beautiful knights. So yeah, I also missed... She's down a piece. Or she's up a piece. For the 2 pawns. Okay, let's check on Bartek. Bartek's in some time pressure against Kevin. So things didn't go well for Bartek since last we saw. So okay, knight here with the fork. Yeah, after bishop here, Bartek plays this move, interestingly, instead of taking, and now this allows for Kevin to win the pawn, and now his center is very strong. So Bartek has turned the tide on this one. Huge follow from 95 Horatio. You love to see it. One of the absolute legends of the chess community on Twitch. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. So yeah, Bartek's gonna have to fight this downtime down a pawn. Let's check in on the National Masters here. What's happening? Ooh, wait. Yeah, no, check is pretty bad. Rook here, looking at rook d8. You might have to give up a bishop or something. Yeah, queen takes now. And now you gotta hope for this pawn to promote, but white's completely winning. That's GG. Couple moves left. Queen takes pawn with check. That we see resigner. Back to Bartek. So Warsaw getting 2 points here. One from their bottom board, one from their board 2. They have a 2-point lead now, but we got 2 games left. We could see an upset win here from Michigan. Because black right now is the favorite. Looks like they're going to find a 3-fold. Is Kevin going to go for more? Yep, he goes for the draw. So that is a good result there for Michigan, but Michigan could have pressed more in this position, I believe. Ooh, Ben Lee goes down to Horizon Event. We didn't really watch this game very much, so let's see really quickly what unfolded here. So let's see. Couple of trades. This is an isolated pawn. This is isolated. We got double pawns here, but we lose the D pawn. Yeah, all these pieces really close to the king. We have a capture on h3, and that's mate next. Can't do anything about that. So nicely done from the GM, taking down Michigan's top board. So we had almost a sweep for Warsaw. They were just 1 game away. Only their top board didn't win. So 3.5 to a half there on the second round. A huge response after the first round. Yeah, Kevin from Michigan. That Dasani water placement. We're not, this is not a sponsored ad, by the way. We are not sponsored by Dasani. But yeah, it's good to stay hydrated. All right, so half the match is over. Michigan has to respond. That was quite the beating in that last round. Kevin is the only player to get any points for Michigan with that draw. A big draw against Bartek, Warsaw's best player. But Warsaw came up big on every other board. So we shall see how Michigan responds. Rookie 1 here from White. What have we got? We got Let's Go Band versus Bartek. So Let's Go Band had an upset loss in the last round. Gonna see if they can get some points out of Bartek, just like Kevin did. And Bartek, meanwhile, probably not too pleased with losing that pawn and only getting a draw in that last game, as they had a solid position. But Kevin had some good counterplay with that knight, grabbing a pawn. Ultimately settled for a draw in time pressure. So we got all 4 games underway. We got Rizard versus the top board, Ben. Ben lost in the last one to Arcadius, although Arcadius is a grandmaster. So it's hard to call that an upset win. But in terms of rating, Ben's pretty high. Ben is the highest rated player on both these teams. Dude, every single game I feel there's a knight on e4 supported by 2 pawns from either side. You can't take with the knight because then you get forked. So if you take the knight, you got to take with the bishop. So rerouting this piece. Pressure on the c pawn. Maybe rook to the c file. Maybe queen here. Maybe just taking. Yep, so takes first. Do you take back? Probably. You take here, and then black takes. That or black takes right away. But probably you want to trade bishops. You don't want to allow white to take, and then the rook will be awkwardly placed on a6. So we do see this recapture now taking here. Now c6 is weak. So it's supported by the rook. Let's see, Kevin's playing Warsaw's 4th board. We have opposite side castles here, so there should be fireworks soon. White will probably launch the H pawn. This pawn's weak. This pawn's actually hit. How does black defend this? I forgot there's no c pawn. So this is an issue for black. Just giving it up. So does the queen want to take? This bishop is blocking the rook. Before, you couldn't take because you lose the bishop. All 1900s, Brent, might be division 3 or 4. Something like that. To be division 1, you have to have 2200 plus average rating. 2200 plus. Division 2 is above 2000 still, but below 2200. So division 3 is probably around 2000, maybe below 2000. So white has grabbed a pawn. And they want to trade queens, so black denies the trade. So the computer said there's this bishop h6 move is kind of funny. Really interesting line. You're threatening to win the queen. And if queen takes, you take with check first, then take back. So that would have been an interesting line to see. Very hard to see that bishop h6 move. So the queen stays on the board, and now the knight hits the queen. You can go back to a5. Okay, so black's like, all right, let's trade queens. I didn't want to trade here, but I'll trade here. And white is happy. So white is just up a pawn. All right, let's check in back with Bartek against Justin. A lot of tension here in the center. This knight is kind of awkwardly placed. This knight doesn't have any great moves. You can go back to d2, but you're kind of blocking. You want to open up the queen here for sure. Yeah, Warsaw team has 2 grandmasters actually. They're board 1 and board 3. So right now it looks like black's doing better. This is a really nicely placed bishop, but it can be contested. I'm just looking at this h pawn. Perhaps a passed pawn, and probably the bishop's gonna tuck back and you get all the pawns rolling. So the knight comes in, perhaps to replace the bishop, help strengthen this. Bishop e6 is a move for sure. Try to remove this and remove this. Get the pawns rolling again. So, yeah. Alex is up a pawn, so gonna try to convert this. Takes the e file. So now the bishop has to stay. We've left the support of our passed pawn here. So now this bishop's kind of awkwardly placed. But the rook wants to activate on the e file, doesn't want to babysit a pawn. Also, the pawn could always push. Not anymore. So both rooks committed to the h and g files here for white. So how do you make progress here as black? How do you make progress? Thinking, can we sacrifice? Probably not. We're not really threatening to promote. Oof. Man. All right, only a minute though for Alex. 2 minutes for Horizon. Under a minute. Yeah, Bartek's also in time pressure. What's happening here? He's got to take something. So how do you want to take? 20 seconds, under 30 minutes, or under half a minute. Come on, Bartek. All right, taking on e5 at the pawn, offering a queen trade. You could also just leave the queens, take here. I'm wondering if you're thinking about takes. Then there would be queen trade because you don't want to hang the knight, right? Yeah, taking on c6 seems to make sense because you're going to get this e5 pawn. You just got to watch out for queen takes, rook takes. Bishop back, knight takes with tempo. Okay, so taking on b6. There's queen takes. Okay, so they take. There's pressure on the bishop now, so the threat is to take this, then take this. So the queen connects with the bishop. Knight f4 seems to be begged to be played. Bartek has 10 seconds. 10 seconds to a minute. They find knight f4. Bishop takes, and now black gets to save this pawn and undouble them as well. So now what? This knight's hanging. Bishop's defended. The knight could have gone here with tempo. I don't know. I guess it's going this way instead. Pressure now on the c pawn. Kind of awkward to defend this. Kind of awkward. You can't defend it with the queen or a rook. If you defend with the queen, black can still just take. After queen takes, our bishop falls. So probably you can't push it either. You drop the exchange. So yeah, looks like Black Bartek is under 10 seconds, but he's got a great position. And he's also evening things up on the clock a little bit. Justin's gonna have to realize you got to give this up, or maybe you trade, but then there's like rook takes or queen takes, even more pressure on the pawn. Now you here with tempo, but there goes the pawn. All right, let's check in on Alex's game. They're also under 10 seconds to a whole minute, but what's happening with this king? Both kings in the center. This is actually a fork. Wait. Oh, but this pawn's defending the bishop. The bishop's defending the knight. But I guess Black's threat is to take on b6. So yeah, what is happening here? We got to get our knight back, but it's cooked by this bishop. Look at this beautiful bishop. Giving up this. Ooh, taking. Wait, what? What? Oh, you're making a queen. You're making a queen, but there's probably some perpetual. Wow, this has to be a draw. This is going to be perpetual. If you go here, you got discoveries. Yeah. Yeah, it's a draw. All right, what a crazy finish. Oh, Ben beat Rizard. We missed that one. Okay, what's happening here? Black is winning. Black is winning this one. White's pawn structure's toast, and rook a1's coming. So Bartek should clinch this one. Okay, not even playing rook a1, just got cobbling up the pawns first. The threat is to take the bishop, so the rook defends the pawn. King attacks the rook. Rook goes all the way back. Knight's coming in. King's coming in. Check. King here. Rook here now. King has to defend, yeah. Trade off now, and this pawn's promoting. Can't take. All right, Bartek wins that one. Oh, Joanna beat Kevin. Okay, so let's get all the points on. So Bartek answers back after the draw with a win. Horizon and Alex with a draw. A good result there from Alex getting on the board, the fourth board from Michigan. Joanna with a big win. And Ben with the win. Okay, so Michigan is down 4-8. Hi, Halvard. I'm good. Thank you. Let's see Joanna's game really quick. Yeah, strong attack here from Joanna's pawns. And the bishop's pinning the knight. Dasani bottle cap just flagged. Down a bishop. Down 2 pawns. And Ben's game. Bless me. Yeah. Ben was just up a rook, or up an exchange in all the pawns. Okay, so we got Rizard versus Justin now. Both players in the 2470s. Only 3 rating point difference. But Justin is a FIDE master. But Rizard has the 3 rating point advantage. So we have another one of these bishop captures here. So it looks like, I don't know, these players know their theory. Black has played, I don't know if it was the same player though. It might have been someone else. Maybe we got some team study sessions going on with these teams. They're practicing. Maybe they did a little scouting, perhaps even. I don't know. Little some studying. But yeah, this is the 4th and final round. Michigan has to sweep in order to tie, so probably not going to happen. Warsaw just needs to draw on any board. So we're looking at Bartek and Ben. These are the point leaders from both teams. Ben going 2 out of 3. Bartek leading the pack at 2.5 out of 3. So Bartek has yet to lose the game. For sure, Brent. 100%. I think it's hard though because you got to prioritize appropriately. You want to make sure you're getting your studies in. I like this c5 push from black, just going after this pinned pawn. This queen is hanging on d3, and oh, I didn't mean to do that. That was not the move that was played. I accidentally clicked on the thing. Okay, so we have a good move actually. Threatening mate. Taking here, hitting the rook. I think black is slightly better here because you should be winning a pawn. No? Wait, can you go here? So this is hit, this is hit. If you go here, takes. Yeah, wait, what are you doing now? You can take here, hit the knight. Yeah, that or f5 is the only other idea that I have. So yeah, what are the odds Michigan sweeps? Probably very low. Warsaw almost swept Michigan in round 2. That's honestly what their lead's been from. Okay, I like white. White has a strong center. This could be a problem. d6. Didn't go for it. Instead activates the rook. Gets off this diagonal. Knight back here. We can take. Pawn takes, and now these pawns are just so strong. Yep, knight takes. Pawn takes. And now, yeah, I just can't help but look at this d5 pawn. It's so beautiful. And this knight needs to move to activate the bishop. Try to go after this guy. But also to try to get on this diagonal. Okay, a4. Now b4. Okay, so now both sides have passed pawns. Knight comes back in a defensive role. Joanna's done well for a 4th board. She has 2 points out of 3. And Alex is her lowest rated opponent, so. Right now, white is slightly favored. I think bishop here is a good move. But black is putting some pressure on e4, so queen c2 first. And now bishop here is probably next. Let's check out the top boards here. Bartek versus Ben. So Bartek has yet to castle. They have the bishop. It's black's turn. They can take on b2. And then they'll have a 2-on-1 majority. But this pawn will be hunted down. I guess Ben's deciding if I should keep the pawn here. No, so trading, rook here. You're gonna lose this next. Although rook check. Oh, the bishop defends the rook. Okay, I thought the rook would be hanging. You could give check if you wanted to. Probably don't want to. But black does have the better rooks. Better position for the time being. But they do have the bishop. Ooh. This allows for en passant. So now the h pawn is passed. It's promoting on the wrong color square. You want to promote on the same color as the bishop. Yeah, this position's pretty even. This knight's really bad for black. Gonna have to take a couple moves to get this to a better spot. Probably just king e2 is really solid. Let's check out Kevin. Kevin looks to be doing well. This awkward king here. Like, what's going on, black? Grandmaster. The king on f7. Yeah, f5. Interesting move. So, bishop here. King wants to move. I mean, white hasn't castled either. But they can castle fairly easily. Maybe don't want to get into this pawn storm, perhaps, but I don't know. Deciding not to take, inviting the knight in. So black's next move, maybe they'll go here. King here to defend the knight. So not wanting to take, can't develop because the bishop is attacking the knight. So king over, I guess, makes some sense. King maybe he's going to tuck back. Maybe black's going to continue with the pawn storm. So Kevin's deciding what to do at this point. You sack a knight for 2 pawns. How good is bishop takes? If we had castled already and there was a rook on e1, I would go for that for sure. But Kevin's going for it regardless. So now the king can't retreat. King's going to be forced back to block in this bishop. And even if you don't block the bishop's still tied down to the knight. The knight's pinned. So maybe we'll see black trade, but the knight's going to be really well placed here as well. Attacking here. So yeah, I think Kevin should just castle, get a rook on the e-file. Black can't castle anymore. So a knight for 2 pawns. Is it worth it? I think it's good compensation. I think white's doing just fine here. Should definitely castle and play rook to e1. Let's check back on the bottom boards here. So looks like white has a bit safer king and a stronger pawn center. This is kind of an awkward construction though. Yeah, like the knight wants to leave, which means now the rook has to be taken away from the center to support this pawn for the knight to retreat. Black is continuing with the pawn advances here. The threat is to just play g3. So white takes this. This pawn is hanging now. Check with the wait. What? That's mate. That's mate. That's mate. Oh no. Joanna grabs on e4, allowing queen h3. Oh no. Very unfortunate. Bartek down to 34 seconds. So Alex gets their first win with a huge blunder from Joanna. The match isn't over yet. Michigan's gotten 1 out of the 4 that they need. This position looks pretty drawn. I would go for the knight check, but who knows what's going to happen. Bartek, only 30 seconds. Justin also here, the board 2 from Michigan, only with 30 seconds. But the position's looking good for black. I mean, they have bishop pair. Awkward kingside pawn structure, yes, but this king could be very exposed if we get this. I mean, look at this rook asking for it. You could take the knight now. You take the knight. G takes. Queen takes with the fork. You have to block with something. Okay. I would have at least taken the D pawn. Wait, okay, this is defend. Wait, what about this guy? Wait, what was this move? Okay, hit the queen, yes, but now you lose this. Okay, pinned. King over, though, right? There's checks to be had. Justin's going all in, but I don't see it. I don't see it. Let's check out Kevin's game. Kevin's also very low on time. Ruined the pawn structure here. So the knight sacrifice doesn't seem to have been panned out fully yet, but black still has development issues. This bishop smothered by knights. This knight pinned to the rook. So just low time though is the thing. 15 seconds. Let's check on the board ones now. Both players under 30 seconds. Bartek under 10 seconds. Rook and pawn endgame. As they say, rook and pawn endgame is always just a draw. This pawn blocks out the rook defense as well as defends this pawn. So probably you want to move the king up, but then you lose this. So that's awkward. Probably lose that too. So now going after this, king defends. But that means this pawn's defended now. Okay, not anymore. Rook takes. Wait, what? Rook takes, I guess. What is this? What's going on? What's wrong with rook to b5? Rook b5 looks so good. Rook b5 looks winning. They're threatening to take this with check. Go back here. What are you guys doing? There goes your h-pawn. That's a threat. Rook takes. Pressure here. Okay, it's 2 seconds. 1 second. Move, Bartek. Oh my goodness. 3 seconds. 3 seconds for the Grandmaster. Down to his final second. He finally makes a move. Okay, they're gonna take a draw. I mean, a draw wins for white. Does black know that they oh no. It doesn't matter anymore. Justin lost. Justin lost this game to checkmate. So Warsaw officially wins. Rizard going 3 out of 4. Nicely done. Only lost to who'd they lose to? I don't know. Probably Ben, the top board from Michigan. Wait, what's happening in this game? That's a threat. Wait, rook takes, pawn takes, king here. Wait. Black is winning. Black is winning. Just any king move. Pretty much. Maybe don't go here because promote, but like doesn't even matter. You're queening. Queening and you're checking. Yeah, resignation. So Ben takes down Bartek. Bartek's only loss. Final board. So Ben's up to 3. And Kevin's down to 1 second. 3 seconds. Oh man. Bishop hits the queen. That's a skewer. You're gonna see this move. Wait. What's happening? White's giving up a piece for the rook. Rook takes king here. There's no check. You lose the rook. Oh no, there goes the bishop too. There goes the rook. Oh no. Oh, it all fell apart there for Kevin at the end. But this is a close match. I mean, it was just down to these last 2 boards. Kevin, I think, had a good position, but no time. But congrats to this Warsaw team winning 10-6. Let's give Arcadius their points. So they had 2 players at 2.5. They're board 2 at 3 out of 4, and Joanna at 2 out of 4 on board 4. So really evenly strength team here from Warsaw. Really strong team. Ben from Michigan did really well at 3 out of 4, only losing to, who did he lose to? Probably Rizard. And Rizard only lost to, no, actually I don't know who lost to who, but Ben and Rizard from both teams went 3 out of 4, which is pretty strong performance with these teams. But I wanted to look really quickly at this game here. So Kevin went all out, sacked the piece. And after this move, let's see. Yeah, after this, rook e6. Rook e6 is the move, apparently. Rook e6. The knight's pinned. Rook's defended. So rook e6. Queen f5. But it's really hard to see this stuff with 2 seconds on your clock. I mean, yeah, rook here, then rook f5. Wow. And then queen has to go all the way back to c8. And then queen d3. Yeah, okay. Anywho.